A warning tone screamed harshly through the radio, each prolonged beep cutting into the ears like a knife. A red light flashed on the control panel inside the helmet, reflecting in the wide-open eyes of David Miller, the 45-year-old space scientist, who was now hanging suspended outside the ISS. He breathed heavily, each rapid breath sounding like waves slapping against the metal hull. Hiss! Hiss! Oxygen was dropping. Fast. Too fast. "David, can you hear me? Your oxygen is dropping. Come back now, I repeat, come back now." His teammate's voice, astronaut John, yelled through the radio, trembling as if it wanted to pierce the cold void. David tried to turn, the thick gloves gripping the safety tether, but his hands shook. His whole body moved slowly as if sinking in water, heavy and powerless. Before him, the universe opened into an endless night, brilliant with distant stars like millions of watching eyes. "No, this can't be," he whispered, his voice choking in his dry throat. His heart raced, then suddenly missed a beat. A chill spread through his chest. Beep, beep, beep. The alarm heartbeat from the life support system sounded rapidly, then slowed. In that moment, David felt he could no longer hold on to the safety tether. His hands let go. His body spun slowly, drifting away from the teammate's arm that was reaching out in desperation. "David, grab my hand. Grab it, God, don't let go." The shout echoed, then thinned as if sucked into the void. Everything blurred. He felt the blood in his body congeal. The rapid breaths were now only gasps, mixed with the harsh hiss of the malfunctioning oxygen system. Then, silence. A terrifying silence he had never known in his life. No radio, no heartbeat, no sound at all. Only the slow rotation of his body in the infinite space, the light from Earth far below casting upon the spacesuit like a farewell. And then David saw himself, another silhouette separated from his motionless body. He saw himself floating, his eyes dimming beneath the transparent visor of the helmet. But his self, the real him, was standing outside, weightless, no longer feeling heavy. What the hell is happening?" David exclaimed, but that sound did not ring in the radio. It rang in the invisible space around him. He raised his hand, trembling. The hand was translucent, like smoke, like light. Suddenly, a flash of light appeared before his eyes, not the light of the sun, nor the distant stars. It resembled a streak of light opening right in the middle of the universe, swirling slowly, like a mysterious door inviting him. "David, David," a voice sounded, unclear from where. The sound was like John, and also like his daughter's voice, soft, trembling. He froze. His heart, or whatever could be called a heart in this form, ached violently. "Dad, can you hear me? Come home, Dad." Tears welled up, but they were no longer heavy drops, as on Earth. They floated out, dissolving into tiny specks of light, merging into the darkness of space. David wanted to scream, to answer, but his voice choked. His heart beat one more weak beat, then stilled. The light swirled wider, illuminating the void. A strange sound resonated, like millions of strings plucked at once, intense and hypnotic. He felt himself being drawn toward it, unable to resist, unable to flee. In that moment, a question thundered through his mind, clear as if carved into every nerve. Is this death, or a door to another world? A month before the space flight, in the small house on the outskirts of Houston, Texas, David Miller sat by the old wooden table, his calloused hands flipping through pages of research documents. But instead of focusing on the scientific lines, his eyes kept drifting toward the picture hanging on the wall, the clumsy drawing of his 10-year-old daughter, Emily. In that drawing, there was a man in a spacesuit, standing among shining stars, surrounded by a yellow ring, like a halo. At the bottom, in childish, clumsy handwriting, it read, "Daddy is my star." David sighed softly. He remembered the evening Emily had given him that drawing. Flashback. "Daddy," Emily ran from the living room, hiding a sheet of paper behind her back, her brown eyes sparkling. "What's this?" David smiled, bending down. "A present for you, but you have to promise not to laugh." The little girl pouted. If I laugh, it'll only be because I'm happy." He lightly touched his daughter's soft hair. Emily held out the paper. The drawing was uneven, stars crooked, circles messy, but her eyes shone bright with pride. David was at a loss for words. He hugged his daughter, inhaling the faint milky scent in her hair. "What did you draw here?" "That's you. I drew you in space. You look like a superhero." "Oh, me, a superhero." He chuckled, though his eyes grew misty. "Uh-huh. But you have to promise me something." "What promise?" "When you're out there, you have to bring me back a star." "Okay." David fell silent for a moment, gazing deep into his daughter's eyes. Something cut through him like a blade. "I'll try my best. I promise." Back to the present, David closed the documents, leaning back in his chair. In the small study, the sunset light streamed through the window, casting its glow on his tired face. He was 45 years old, a lifetime devoted to science. He had once taught at MIT, then joined NASA, spending more than 20 years in space research. This mission, to study the effects of cosmic radiation on living cells, could open a new path for medicine. But every success he achieved had also been stolen time from his family. "You're working late again." A familiar voice came from the door. His wife, Sarah, walked in, holding a cup of hot tea. David looked up, forcing a smile. "Just reviewing some data. You know, this mission is really important." Sarah set the tea down, folding her arms as she looked at him. "I know. I'm always proud of you. But, David, do you know what matters most?" "What is it?" he asked, though deep down he already knew. "It's Emily. She needs her father more than any research does." David was silent. Her words pierced him. He remembered all the times he had missed. Her first ballet recital, her 9th birthday party. He had always been busy, always saying, "I'll make it back, I promise." But most of the time, he broke that promise. He lowered his head, his voice heavy. "I know. But just this once, Sarah, after this mission, I'll spend more time with you two. I promise." Sarah sat down, taking his hand. The same hand that had once cradled their daughter, once drawn dreams of spaceflight, now trembled with both love and fear. "All I want is for you to come back safe." Nothing is more precious than that a vague premonition. That night, David couldn't sleep. He stepped onto the porch, gazing at the Texas night sky. The sky was clear, thousands of stars glittering. In that moment, he felt a strange unease, as if the stars were whispering something, as if Emily's drawing wasn't just a child's game, but a sign. The ring of light around the man, the star for his daughter. Could he really bring one back? David gripped the porch rail tightly, his breath long and heavy. A flicker of fear passed through his mind, but he quickly pushed it aside. Fear is never the companion of science, he told himself. But deep within, a small voice still whispered, the price of a dream might be everything. The countdown echoed in the control cabin. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition. A roaring blast tore through the void, the whole craft shuddering violently. David pressed his back into the seat, his body slammed down as if by 1,000 invisible hands holding him down. His heart pounded wildly, but his eyes remained bright, looking through the small window where Earth was receding, deep blue and fragile. My God, I really am leaving that place. He turned and saw John, his friend and longtime colleague, also bracing himself in the adjacent seat, murmuring a prayer. David let out a soft laugh, though his chest still bore the heavy tension. Life in orbit. 3 days later, they were aboard the ISS. Work proceeded according to plan, checking power systems, collecting samples, recording hours of notes. David immersed himself in concentration, but occasionally caught John's anxious glance. You tired? John asked one quiet evening, when the two floated by the window module, looking down at Earth. David shook his head. No. Just thinking of Emily. She's probably asleep now. My little girl always hugs her stuffed bear and dreams of her dad out here. John placed a hand on his shoulder, his voice warm and low. Then make sure you come back to tell her. Don't let it stay only a dream. David smiled, but the corners of his eyes stung. Accident. On the fourth day, David and John went outside to inspect the solar panel arrays. Outside, space opened like an endless ocean, horrifyingly silent. Be careful, David. I'm reading a slight pressure anomaly, John warned. Yeah, I'll check quickly, David replied, his voice calm. But then the alarm siren rang in the helmet. A strip of red text flashed, Oxway level critical. He jolted. Breaths came fast, each one like fire burning in his lungs. John, my suit has a problem. Oxygen is dropping too fast. Slow down, calm down. Return now, David. Can you hear me? John shouted, his voice breaking over the radio. David tried to turn, but the safety tether yanked hard, twisting around a strut. He pulled, but the thick gloves slipped from the latch. In that instant, his whole body trembled with fear. No, this can't be. Falling toward death, his heart thudded and then missed a beat. Vision blurred. He saw John lunge toward him, a hand reaching out in desperation. David! Grab my hand! He tried to reach out, but his hand slipped off the safety tether. In that moment, his entire body wavered, slowly spinning, separating from the ISS, drifting into the endless darkness. His heart clenched violently. A piercing sound rang in his ears, uncertain whether it was an alarm or an explosion inside his head. Then, everything went out. David saw himself drifting away from his body. He saw the white spacesuit, his eyes squeezed shut, the body spinning in space. But he, the real self, floated right beside it, as light as air, translucent like light. What is happening to me? He muttered, but not over the radio. It rang directly through the void. He heard his heartbeat. Then it was gone. Strange sounds. In the silence, suddenly a sound arose. Tones like a melody hummed from millions of years ago. That sound was not human, but as if coming from the stars themselves. And then he heard a call. David. The voice was blurred but familiar. He strained to listen. John. Number. This voice was clear, innocent. Dad, Daddy. His heart tightened. Emily. He looked around. There was no one, only the endless dark and glittering stars. But his daughter's voice rang out very clearly. Daddy, don't go. I'm waiting for you. Tears welled up. He reached his hand forward, the hand no longer flesh, but like a faint, transparent wisp. Emily, I'm here. I'm here. The door of light. At that moment, an aureole of light appeared. It was neither sunlight nor starlight, but a spiraling streak of light, expanding like a gigantic door. That light beckoned, resonating with millions of tones like a cosmic choir. David was drawn toward it. He could not resist. His body of light drifted slowly, gently like a feather. An unusual peace spread through him. Fear dissolved. Only warmth and love remained. In his mind, a thought rang clearly. This is not death. This is a door, but a door to where? In that moment, I no longer saw my body, no longer the feeling of the bulky spacesuit, no longer the constraint of gravity or space. I floated in a gentle stream of light, as if the entire universe were opening its arms to embrace me. Everything around was no longer the cold darkness of space, but a strange realm. Galaxies glowing brightly, winding like rivers of silver light, endless and wondrous. I heard a kind of sound unlike any instrument on Earth, a clear resonance, like millions of crystalline beads colliding with one another, reverberating forever in my mind. Then, amid that brightness, I saw a familiar figure. It was my father. He stood there, not with the aged look from the sickbed years, but as a youthful, strong image, his eyes full of pride. My son. His voice echoed, yet warm as the days he used to take me out to the vacant lot to watch the stars. I have watched you, every step, and I know you have always yearned to touch this sky. I choked up. Father, is it really you? He smiled, and in that instant I felt a clear, warm current of energy, like being wrapped in the arms of childhood. I wanted to rush forward and hug him tight, but my body was only a floating stream of consciousness. Not only my father, but many other faces appeared behind him. My grandmother, who had told me fairy tales before bed. A few colleagues who had sacrificed themselves in previous space accidents. They stood there, all smiling. I asked, voice breaking, "Where is this? Am I dead?" My father looked at me, his gaze solemn. "This is the place between boundaries. Not yet the end, but also not certain that you can return. You must choose." Around me, bands of light swirled into a giant gateway. On the other side was an oddly peaceful land, fields stretching out, a radiant sky, no more fear or pain. Another voice sounded, unclear whose, but it rang in my mind as if coming from my own soul. "Stay, and you will rest forever. Return, and you will continue your unfinished path." But returning also means facing pain, responsibility, the limits of being human. I felt torn. Ahead was an endless happiness, where I could meet the lost, no longer be lonely. But behind, I imagined the faces waiting for me on Earth. My mother, my wife, and my teammates on the ISS. "Father, what should I do?" I nearly begged. He came closer, unable to touch me, but I felt the determination in his eyes. "My son, I cannot decide for you. But remember, there are people who still need you. Your journey is not over." Those words cut straight into my mind. I closed my eyes, feeling my heart, or my soul, tremble. I knew I had to choose. A powerful whirl of light pulled me back. The gentle resonance turned into pounding beats. I screamed unconsciously, "I choose to return!" Immediately, the peaceful realm dissolved. The brilliant light shattered into fragments, sweeping me into a deep darkness. I heard someone cry out, sharply, the urgent sound of machines, gasping breaths. I was falling very fast, and below was my body. The first sound I heard was the incessant beeping of the heart monitor. That sound rang harshly, as if pulling me out of the abyss. I opened my eyes in terrible heaviness. Every sense spun. The pungent smell of plastic and metal in the station cabin, the red flashing lights from the control panel, the chaotic wails of the alarm system. My chest ached as if ripped apart, my breath short as if swallowing knives. Ethan, can you hear me?" The voice of a teammate, Maria, sounded full of despair. I forced my lips to move, but only a faint moan escaped. My whole body trembled as if torn in two. A hand gripped mine, trembling yet strangely warm. "You're still alive. My God, you're still alive," Maria cried, tears floating in the air, tiny rainbow droplets drifting around us. I wanted to answer, to hold her, to say that I had passed through a place human words could not describe, but my body only had the strength to gasp. The hours that followed were hazy like a delirium. Colleagues hurriedly restored systems, placed an oxygen mask on me, and tried to keep me conscious. But in my head, the images I had just experienced still swirled like flames. My father's face, the realm of light, the life and death choice. When I returned to Earth, I was transferred immediately to the NASA hospital. The doctors spoke plainly. "You was clinically dead for 3 minutes and 27 seconds. The heart stopped completely. We don't understand how you returned." I could only offer a weak smile. How could they understand? During the days of recovery, I was quieter. I was no longer a scientist who viewed everything through numbers and formulas. I remembered my father's gaze, remembered the reminder that there were people who still needed me. Once, my mother came to the hospital. She took my hand, her voice trembling. "Ethan, I prayed for you every minute. I was afraid of losing you as I lost your father." I choked up, tears welling. I held her tight, as if I had never held her before. "Mom, I promise I will live differently. I will love more. I will not miss any more moments." Since that incident, I changed. I no longer threw myself into work as before. I kept a journal, writing about the light, about my spiritual journey, about the truth that beyond death is not nothingness, but a door. When sharing the story at a seminar, I looked into hundreds of attentive faces. My voice was hoarse but clear. Perhaps we will never fully conquer the universe. But what I learned is, the meaning of life is not in distant stars, but in the hearts that are still waiting for us to return. A round of applause thundered. I smiled, but deep in my mind, I heard my father's voice again. My son, your journey is not over. And I knew, from now on, each day I live will no longer be like before. The man who once thought he had lost everything in the infinite space returned with a new heart, a heart that knows how to love, to cherish, and knows that even after death, love is the only thing that remains. If you were in a situation like mine, between life and death, would you choose to stay in that peaceful place or return to your loved ones? Leave a comment to share your thoughts. And don't forget to follow to explore more strange journeys between the boundary of life and death with me.